Hi guys, thank you for having me with you today. My name is Yu Yang, Waimong Zaya. I'm a teacher from the Sheboygan Area School District. I've been a teacher for 24 years, and of course, as a teacher, I never look back ever again. So it started when I overheard a conversation that my mother had with some neighbor farmers, because we were out there out in the field, weeding the field at the side of the mountain. And they were talking about how the communist soldiers have arrived into Laos and that they are invading our country. And so they mentioned about how, one, we have to leave the country, or two, we have to submit ourselves to the communist soldier so that we can survive. At that point, it took a while, I don't remember how long, but my mom, with my uncles, with my whole family, we decided that we need to leave. So we packed up a little, whatever things that we have. For me, of course, I carry my clothes. For my mom, she'll pack up some of the heavier stuff, like rice, pots and pans, and in addition, her clothes as well. And my siblings, they carry other household things that we need on our journey. But when you leave your home, you leave your country, you really can't take much. So we just pack up the necessary things that we need to get to our destination. And our objective then, that we need to cross the Mekong River into Thailand, so that way we could reach a neutral country and not be captured or jailed for leaving. As we were preparing to leave the country, just imagine you would have left everything that you know, your home, and you would have left your home for people to come in and invade your space, right? But surviving is not that you don't care, but you have to leave. So we left. And I could remember my two little legs. I was just 5, and we didn't have a dad. So we have to keep up with the rest of the uncles and other relatives and many families within our village. And we walked for miles and miles for days. And at one point we were crossing a very narrow road so that we could reach a major road to get to Vientiane, which is the capital of Laos. And that's the point of where we could cross over to Thailand. And that was a very, very scary experience. I remember sleeping in a small little camp. It's not even a camp, really. We just built a small fire pit, made our dinner by a bunch of bamboo trees and huge giant trees. It's a jungle basically. And in the middle of the night, in the dark, I heard a voice, and Uncle said, "Get up, everybody, get up. You have to hurry up, pack up your things, and we have to leave right now. Something's coming." And so what happened was, they heard some commotion going on, and they were afraid that the communist soldier may have come after us. So we packed up, and the only light we had was the flashlight that my uncle had in his hand. And the rest of us, we have to hold each other's hand. And as we held hands, we have to maneuver our ways into the jungle and not get lost. And so, but I was just a little girl, and I was tired as heck, and I was shaken and woken up. Was not even ready to do anything. My mother gave my little pack, put on my back, and everybody just picked up what they have in front of them. And so we left in the dark, and it was so very scary. You could hear all the crickets, you could hear the owls hooting. The only light we had was the flashlight in front of us. Many of us don't have any, or did not have any light at all. So that was a short, traumatizing experience there. And then in the morning, we have reached the main road. And as we made our way toward Vientiane, the only thing I could recall on that journey was how painful it was for my little legs to be walking for miles and miles and days. And I was hungry. And my family, we stopped to rest briefly, but it was not enough for a little girl to continue walking for days and days. I remember clearly how envious I was of other little kids who have dad and big brothers, and they will carry them on the back or get on the cart and be strolled on their way toward Vientiane. For us, we all have to walk, and we all have to carry our little packs so that we can have the things we need to go toward Vientiane. So after several days on the roads, we finally made camp near the border, the crossing. There's a border called the Hang He. And Hang He is a small little village, and there's a bridge over there. But there are some communist Hmongs. They're sided with the communists, and they say you cannot cross over this bridge to Vientiane. And so there was a shootout. We are very lucky to have not witnessed that shootout. We rested at our little camp for 2 nights, and our uncle, who went over there to inspect and investigate, came back and told us that we cannot proceed with our trip or our crossing over to the Mekong River to Thailand. And that was a disappointment. So we had to make our journey all the way back to our village to come back to our homes. And so at that point, we decided that we need to just go back home. The journey back was quite treacherous for me, among other individuals like my age, and of course the adults. They have to toughen up so that they could bring everybody home safely. So when we got home, we resumed our life at the village. We went back to our rice fields. We went back to our livestock and lived life as normal as it could be. And within a few months, my uncle and also many other villagers decided that we need to leave, basically. And so my mother decided that we're not going to leave because it was too hard on her, just being a single mom. And so we decided to stay, and we stayed. Realized this, my mom was very clever, and she said, we have a lot of rice fields, a lot of animals, like livestock. So we're going to stay, we're going to tend to the livestock and the rice fields, and we're going to harvest, and we're going to enjoy the harvest one season before we leave Laos. So we did that. But it was also a very scary experience because almost everyone's gone. Everyone that we knew, like our uncles and our friends, they were mostly gone. But we lingered for about a year, and we harvested the rice. We lived off the land for a little bit, butchered some animals. But we knew that we couldn't stay because we would be very much alone. So we decided that we need to leave as well. So we make another journey toward Vientiane. And this time there was nothing on the way that stopped us. But we did arrive in Vientiane a little bit late. And so the communist soldier, they started to guard the border much more strict. And we have to go through a lot. We have to pay off some soldiers. We have to pay off some Laotians to get us across the river into Thailand. And so the night that we're going to cross over, they put us into this little cabin and there must be like 30 or 40 people, about 10, 15 families, all put together in this little cabin. And that night, um, there's a lot of restlessness, including myself. And we were to leave about midnight because it's an escape. It's not like a luxury go on a vacation type. So we had to pay off some Laotian to get a boat so that we could get on a boat to cross the Mekong River over. Um, that night, my mother and the other ladies, and they say that when something's going to happen, you can kind of feel the negative energies and the vibrations. And some of our elders have received signs, perhaps signs from beyond. I don't know. I don't believe a lot of that stuff, but we heard the strangest noise that night. And it was like a dog barking or like a baby crying, similar to that. It's the strangest noise. And a lot of ladies said, "Oh my gosh, what kind of noise is that?" Now realize that we live in the jungle most of the times. We go out into the jungle, over across the mountains to plant our rice. So we heard a lot of jungle noises, a lot of sounds of animal sounds. This was unlike any others. And so with that, we didn't know what to make of that sound. So my mother said, perhaps a dog barked in the wrong way. And so everybody just got really, really quiet. And being very young, I'm always, was so tired, and I just like slept next to my mom and hugged her, and then finally, it was probably about 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, everybody got up. They paid the Laotian individuals that's gonna take us over to Thailand, and they paid. We packed up our little things, and then we head toward the river. And as we crossed the river, no, we didn't cross it yet. As we head toward the river, there was a boat. And I have to say that boat is awfully small. They attempted to put 30 plus individuals into this one boat. And as we squeezed into this boat, that night was really windy. It was going to rain. The water was really rough. And so what I have done is that we went in there, and I sat next to my mom. I squatted down, and I can feel the rim of the boat right next to me. And my mother sat next to me right here. And as people get into the boat started to rock back and forth a little bit because there's a lot of movement, and the wind was very strong. So the boat's rocking back and forth, back and forth. And then as I was looking, my hand held the rim of the boat, and I felt water splashed on my hands. And I looked, and every time the boat rocked, more water came into the boat. More water came into the boat. And even with my little logic, my little mind, I knew at that point that there's going to be a lot of water coming in. And I told my mom, I said, "Mom, a lot of water is coming to the boat. If we can start to feel the water on our feet." Many of us who sat down on the floor felt the water coming in. And so my mother said, "Everybody, the water is coming to the boat. Scoop the water out, scoop the water out." And so they did. They scooped the water out. But there's too many people in the boat. There's no way that we could get across the river. And remember, those of you who have studied about the Hmong crossing of the river at that point was very vast. I don't know if you've seen the Mississippi River, but it's like 3 times wider at that time. And so the boat ride across would be very, very long. I would say with a motor, it would take about an hour to get across, perhaps. I don't know. Or 30 minutes. But we knew that there was just too many people in the boat. But they didn't care. They got their money, right? And so we all got into the boat, and the water started coming in, and the wind's blowing. And the elder said, we need to turn the boat around so we could put the motor in so we could be on our way. And so the elders attempted to do that. And all of a sudden, all we could just, out of the blue, blackness, the boat capsized. And somehow the boat got over me, over a lot of people, and they were splashing everywhere. It's in the middle of the night. No lights, nothing. We're all in darkness. I can feel my mother next to me. And I felt the rim still. So I was not very far from the boat, but I knew that we were under. So the boat capsized, and somehow I was under the boat like that. So I grabbed the rim, and I held my breath, and I went over. And I got out to the other side. But somehow I felt like my mother was there too. Somehow she was floating. Her head was down. And I knew she couldn't breathe. I was trying to help her to breathe. But I was too little. I was not strong enough. I was cold. People splashed everywhere, trying to escape. A lot of Hmong people don't know how to swim. They did not know how to swim, I should say. Because we live in villages, and we did not have opportunities to go down the river or any pools anywhere for whatever lakes to learn how to swim. Many of us just go through our days. We go down the river to get water, to wash our clothes. And that was about it. We didn't have running water the way that we are right now. We do right now. So many of us didn't know how to swim. And a lot of people were lost to the river. Within our boat right there, they said we had about roughly 33 people. 30 of them died. 3 survived. I was one of them. So I was known as the soldier's orphan. 2 months later, my sister came and found me, and she had to smuggle me out of Laos again. So once we are out and survived, we went to Nong Khai, a refugee camp. And we stayed there for roughly a couple years. And they moved us to a new camp. And then they moved us to another camp. And so we were relocated to Ban Vinai. Many of you may have heard it if you studied the exodus of the Hmong people. And so we stayed in Ban Vinai for a number of years. I would say total of my years in the refugee camp, probably about 4 to 5 years. The refugee camp experience is a new world of its own. We were not starving, but we didn't have a lot of food to eat. Everything that we received, meaning the refugees, were provided by the United Nations through the Thai government. And we get our rations of food, like rice and meat and veggies. I remember eating a lot of canned fish. We barely get any fresh meat, but there's rice. Many Hmong people had to go out of the camp to seek for employment just so that they could make ends meet. Refugee life was it's not like concentration camp, but it is a camp that hosts a lot of refugees of war. And that's where we were. We left Laos because of the war. And so I recall as a young person, little girl, I occupy my time not by watching television like many of you, but I would go out and look for branches and roots, like tree roots, so that we can have woods to be burned for fire, for cooking. And we also would go to the water tower. They've created water towers for us So we do have access to running water, not running water in the house, but you have to go to a tower somewhere to carry the water back to your house to be used. So I would do that. Those were some of my chores. Beside that, we played with a lot of dust, tree roots, beetles, and I recalled I love climbing trees. So my little legs, climbing trees. So the night at the river, I lost my mother, my sister, and her baby, among a boat full of relatives and friends, into the Mekong River. They were in there, buried in there, never to be found ever again. So we stayed at the refugee camp for roughly 5 or 6 years, and then we came to America. I have to say, my American experience was quite shocking, because I came here and there's running water, there's electricity, right? And there's groceries in a grocery store. We didn't have to plant them. We could just go to the grocery store and grab what we need, right? Given that we have money, of course. Going to school was one of the most challenging things I have ever done in my young life. I thought that if I would learn one word and I would forget the other one. It didn't happen like that, of course. But I was very nervous. It took me 3 years to have basic English. But my first day in class, my teacher said, "What is your name?" And I was like, "Yes." She said, No. What is your name?" I looked at her again. I said, "No." So I knew 2 words, 3 actually. Yes, no, and I. But that was the beginning of my journey here in America. The other part was the shower, toilet, tubs, and snow. Okay? I have to say, snow is probably the most wonderful thing, at least then, because where we came from, it was hot, very hot. I used to imagine that I would have a pool or a river full of water, and on a hot day I could just dive in there. I realized that we did not have a lot of water at our disposal, let alone a pool. And so coming here, seeing snow, back then we want ice on a hot day, popsicle, okay? So I made popsicle out of water. I put a little cup, water in there, put some sugar, stir it, put a spoon in there, take it outside, and let it sit for a day to let it freeze. Brought it back, pull it out, eat like a popsicle. Clever, huh? Have you tried that before? What I didn't realize that we have a freezer. I didn't have to do that. But I didn't realize until much, much later. So that was most interesting. And also shower. A wonderful thing to step into a cubicle and water's coming down. Or let alone go to the bathroom and flush, right? So those are some of the cultural shock. A wonderful shock. And then a number of years later, my family and I, we moved to a very, very small city in Nebraska. And in that little town, they did not have a lot of Asian, Blacks, or Hispanics. So we were there, and kids are kids, but there was some racial name calling. So I've been called a lot of names, which I won't repeat in this video. If I were to be there in person, I would share. But anyway, you know what it is like to be bullied, to be name calling by your race. But many people then didn't know that we were Hmong. They didn't know why we were here. They just assumed that we had black hair and we're Asian, therefore we're Chinese or Vietnamese. And that people who are from Vietnam are baby killers. That's what they call it, okay? So they didn't know, and I didn't have the opportunity to educate them or let them know that I was not here in America by choice, but by necessity. I have to. And up to today, I want to tell you, I want to say, God bless America. The reasons being because being a young person then, who would have imagined that I would become a teacher? And in our culture, a teacher is one of the most prestigious career one could have. And I am very blessed indeed. I am an orphan. Now that I'm a mom, I don't feel like that anymore because I have to be a mom to my children. But I was an orphan, and I knew that I had to live my life very purposefully and meaningfully and really truly embrace America so that I can provide a better future for my children. So that I have done. I can't say that my children will be super successful, but I knew that they have a better opportunity than I could possibly have. They can go to college, they can become a doctor, lawyers, they can be artists, they could be a singer. The possibility is endless. And so that I'm very proud of, and that I'm grateful to be here in America. And I thank you for having me with you today. I know that there are things that I failed to mention, but for the time that I was given, I hope that this has been an eye-opening to you, all the students. But feel free to ask your teacher for more information. And if you have questions specifically for me, you can ask your teacher to send it to me, and I will respond to you. How about that? Okay? I do have a lot of stories to share. So until then, I'll see you.